My name is William Bradley. I'm 37, and the mirror in this hotel room tells a simpler story than my resume ever will. A black suit, a white shirt, a steady tie. My West Point ring turns cool against my finger when I adjust the knot. I don't wear my uniform to family things, and I don't lead with my rank. In this room, I'm just Will. The son who left 10 years ago and never quite knew how to come back. Across the street, the Grand Elysium pours light into the evening like champagne. Marble columns, crystal chandeliers, staff in black jackets moving like they've rehearsed the same ballet since the building opened. From here I can hear jazz that sounds expensive. I take a breath, pocket my phone, and head across at the entrance. A hostess smiles polite. Professional Ann checks my invitation. Table 17, Mr. Bradley, she says, pointing with a discreet hand toward the far corner of the hall. My mouth makes a thank you my chest doesn't feel. Table 17 is not where family sits, not where brothers sit, not where fathers see you when they raise their glass. Table 17 is where you put people you won't need to make eye contact with all night. Step into a room full of money and the smell of gardenias. There are a lot of familiar faces, board members from my father's company. Investors I remember only because their watches were conversations. Waiters glide through with trays of sparkling water and the kind of awe. Dervs you need to be taught how to eat without dropping something on a tux. My mother Helen. In a slate blue dress that makes her look like the soft part of a storm spots. Me first. Her smile is quick to rise and quick to steady itself, like she's checking whether it's allowed. She leans in, kisses my cheek, fingers brushing my jacket sleeve, with that small, nervous press that used to check whether I had a fever. You look handsome, she says. And it's the kind of thing mothers are allowed to say even when they're also wondering if you'll both get through the evening without stepping on a landmine. My father is 20 feet away and moving. In his natural element, constellation of people, orbiting a tall man in a tux that looks tailored inside the stitching. James Bradley, CEO of Nix Road Dynamics, shakes hands like signatures, laughs with his teeth. Talks with the energy of someone whose calendar is already 2 weeks past full. He sees me. I know he sees me. He does not register that he has. He turns a little, guiding a man in a silver tie toward the bar with the easy pressure of someone who has moved rooms his whole life. My brother appears at my shoulder, like he's been summoned. Brian always did have good timing. He looks like our father in a magazine had an agreement black hair slicked into obedience, cufflinks that catch the light on purpose. CFO at 32, because he's always been older in the ways that pleases New York. He grins. Real enough to push back something in my chest? You made it, he says, and hugs me harder than I expect. He smells like expensive cologne and a little like the soap we used as kids that came in a sports ball shape. Like I'd miss it, I say, because some habits help. He rocks back on his heels. You look good, Will. Undercover tonight. Always, I say. He glances toward the head table, then back at me. There's a flicker of apology I catch before it closes. Don't mind the seating. You know how Dad gets about optics. I've been table 17 before, I say, and we both almost laugh. The bride, Charlotte, appears with a white dress that knows how to walk. She's beautiful in the practical way eyes that take in a room and let it know it's been seen. She hugs me, without hesitation. Your brother told me if I needed a firewall for this marriage. You're the guy, she says, and I can't tell whether she means the joke, but I appreciate the effort. Ceremony first. The hotel's atrium turns into a chapel, with a line of chairs and a string. Quartet that makes Pachelbel sound like it's never been played before. I sit where I'm meant to. I stand when everyone stands. Brian's voice shakes twice, and then finds its rails. Charlotte's father wipes his eye with a practiced hand. My mother watches the vows like she's been asked to hold a breath and intends to do it well. My father's face is a study in control and pride and ownership and something. I stopped trying to name when I was 19. The officiant pronounces them. The kiss is clean and sure. The applause is a wave. We move as a school toward the reception hall. Staff offers champagne. I take water. Someone claps me on the shoulder and turns me like a lever. It's Uncle Ray, not a blood uncle, but the kind of man who shows up with a truck when you need to move a couch. Will? He booms. Still playing soldier? He laughs in the way people laugh when they think a joke is a favor. Your father's been talking you up. Says you're off pushing papers somewhere warm. Something like that, I say. I could explain that warm in my world is the heat that servers throw when 1,000 machines push back against the dark at once. I could talk about neon-lit rooms and soft-soled shoes and the quiet that falls right before a fight you can't see. I don't. I swallow the not saying and let it sit with the other times I have dinner. The band slides into standards. The salad course makes leafy promises. At the head table, my father takes his position, hand on the back of my mother's chair like a flag he has planted. A microphone waits. It's a nice one. Of course it is. He picks it up like it knows who it belongs to. Friends, he says, and the word fits in his mouth like money. Family. Colleagues, who might as well be both. Tonight is a night I have imagined for a long time. My son, he turns, eyes bright, the best CFO in the state of Georgia. Not the Eastern Seaboard has married up as all smart men should. Laughter. Charlotte takes it well and squeezes Brian's hand. My father scans the room as if he's chosen where each laugh will land. I am a fortunate man, he continues. A wife whose grace and intelligence have quietly built every good thing in my life. A younger son whose ambition makes me look lazy. He pauses. The room waits for the last part of the equation. And an older son, I don't change my face. I don't do anything but breathe. Who chose a different path? He smiles the way you do when you practice in a mirror. We all make our choices. Some of us build companies. Some of us put on uniforms and do our part. He tilts his head, gives the audience the line he knows will play. A lowly soldier, he says, mock gracious. And I feel the word land like a glass put down a little too hard on a beautiful table. The room shifts. There's the cheap laugh from someone who wants credit for getting the joke early. There's the tight chuckle from people who aren't sure it's a joke. Exactly. There's my mother's hand on her napkin, folding once, twice, a third time too carefully. Brian flinches where only I can see it. I sit still. My father doesn't catch it. Or maybe he does and pushes through. But hey, he says, lighter, not everyone wants corner offices and quarterly earnings, right? The laughter crests. He raises his glass. To Brian and Charlotte, glasses lift. Something inside me doesn't. I have stood in rooms where the air changed because somebody turned a switch. Here in a carpeted ballroom with soft lighting and a perfect floral budget, the switch I feel click is the one that manages my face. It goes to safe mode. I drink water because my mouth is dry. The toast ends. The band tries to smooth the room by offering the familiar. People take their cue and talk over the edges. My mother's eyes find mine like she's lost her keys and knows I'll know where she left them. She looks away before she can apologize with her mouth. I'd planned to let the night do what it does, carry itself to a late hour where people dance badly enough to blame the shoes. I'd planned to leave without making a noise. The universe, which is bad at reading plans, makes one of its own. It happens the way interruptions always do first, as a ripple, then a wave. Near the back of the hall, the doors open. A hotel manager appears, flanked by two men with the bearing of people who wear earpieces for reasons. Behind them, a woman in an evening dress every bit as proper as the room walks in. Followed by a man I know well enough to have memorized the way he carries his shoulders. He is not in uniform. He doesn't need it. Command looks the same in a tux as it does with a flag behind you. The manager is trying and failing not to look like he has a story to tell his grandchildren. The band falters. Conversations stutter into silence. My father half turns to see who has dared put themselves in his light. Apologies for the interruption, the woman says, voice clear enough to cut the clink of forks. I'm Cassandra Reed. Faces in the room give their owner away, recognition dawning. Undersecretary of the Army, the pause that follows isn't quiet. It's full of 100 calculations. My father stands a little straighter. Investors lean in so friends can whisper. That's. The man beside her steps forward with a smile that has reassured whole rooms in worse moments than this. Evening, he says. I'm Lieutenant General Owen Marshall. He's my boss's boss. Commanding General, U.S. Army Cyber Command? He nods toward the tables like he's seen all of us before in different clothes. We're on our way to another engagement and heard there was a Bradley family event happening in the building. My father recovers faster than most. General, he says, moving toward the center of the room with an eagerness he cannot dress. What an unexpected honor, extends his hand. General Marshall shakes it because he is polite and understands optics without being owned by them. Sorry to intrude, the general says. I won't pull you from your celebration. I just wanted a moment to pay my respects to one of my best men. Turns. His eyes land on me without needing to find me. It feels like sunlight in a room used to chandeliers. Major General Bradley, he says. Not loud, not quiet, just enough to carry. I didn't recognize you without your stars. The room inhales like it's trying to catch up to itself. I stand because he said my name. My father's face does a complicated thing, surprise and calculation and denial doing quick math. He half laughs, because that's the noise he makes when the ground underneath him thinks about moving. The general is already crossing the space between us. The undersecretary is with him. People part the way they do when the story is shifted and they want better seats. Sir, I say, keeping my voice inside the small, safe box we use in public. We shake hands the way you do when the relationship lives in the contact. Apologies for barging in. Marshall says, eyes soft with a humor the room can't afford. We were nearby. Ms. Reed insisted we drop by. Sandra Reed smiles. It hits the head table the way a well-aimed thing does. I did, she says. Your mother wrote me a letter, Major General, some time ago, politely scolding me for never letting you take a proper vacation. She looks over at Helen and lifts her glass. My mother looks like someone has told her the bus did arrive after all. I told her I'd try to be better. General Marshall turns to my father. Mr. Bradley, he says, with the nod he gives men who are used to getting nods. I'm sure you're proud. My father is a fast learner when he needs to be. We are, he says, and the we is inclusive in a way that makes my teeth ache. Marshall doesn't linger on it. He looks back toward the microphone still on the head table. Forgive me for asking, he says, but I heard a line as we came in that didn't sit quite right in my ear. My father holds still. Lowly soldier, the general says. Tasting the phrase without spitting it, he turns back to the room so the words don't have to sit on one man. We don't have those where I work. He lifts his glass. We have soldiers. We have officers. We have civilians who show up at 2 in the morning to keep things you never think about from breaking in ways you don't need to learn. And we have leaders like Major General Bradley, whose name most of you didn't know 5 minutes ago, which means he's doing his job. He glances at me and lets the corner of his mouth tilt. And yes, Mr. Bradley, he does more than push papers somewhere warm. Laughter then, the right kind relief, apology, people falling over themselves to be on the correct side of the truth. My father's smile reappears, rearranged. The room reorients itself around a new gravity. The general reaches into his inside pocket and takes out a small circle of brass. I should have done this in a quieter place, he says, with a look that says he knows exactly what he's doing. But then your father wouldn't get to see it. He presses the coin into my palm heavy. Etched with the crest of the command, the operation name ghosted into the rim. I feel the weight and think of the first time a senior officer ever dropped one into my hand, and I realized what it meant to be told. You were here? And it mattered. On behalf of the Army, General Marshall says, voice gone a shade formal. Thank you for Sentinel fire. He doesn't say the rest out loud. He doesn't have to. Cassandra's eyes do a quick, quiet circuit of the room that says, enough. The net stayed up when it wanted to go dark. A thing that was supposed to get through didn't. He claps me on the shoulder once. Don't let me interrupt you, being an older brother, he says, and for a second, a private second. I'm just that a kid who used to hold Brian's handlebars while he found his balance. Cassandra Reed extends her hand to my mother. You raised 2 fine men, she says. Different theaters. Same war. My mother nods because she cannot do anything else without either crying or laughing. Both would break the porcelain of the room. She finds my hand in the mess of it and squeezes twice. My father clears his throat. He gets his voice back fast when it flees. General, Undersecretary, he says. I hope you'll allow me to introduce some of our board because of course he would like to pivot, as if the river will run where he tells it. Another time, Cassandra says, pleasant and firm. Tonight is for family. It's the kind of correction that leaves no bruises and still puts a man back in his chair. They go like a tide. It's leaving the room 6 degrees cooler. Conversations rush in to fill the vacuum. The band, bless them, reads a crowd better than some politicians. They slide into something people can talk over and later dance to. My father is looking at me in public as if he's having a private thought. This is the most dangerous moment in rooms like this. He is a man whose power has always been architecture. Tonight, someone else laid the foundation. He raises his glass to me. Not a toast, not yet. A placeholder. His mouth makes the shape of a sentence he doesn't say. Brian reaches me first. He half laughs, half exhales. You. Absolute maniac, he says under his breath, affection and awe tangled up. You weren't going to tell me? You had a wedding to do, I say. I had a seat to keep warm at table 17. He swats my shoulder. Screw table 17, he says, and drags me toward the head table like he's rewriting a directory. The band leader, sensing the theater, hands me the microphone without the usual ceremony. I take it. The room, which has had a lot happen to it in 10 minutes, quiets again because it wants to see if this is the part where a family gets to be a better version of itself. I look at Brian, then at Charlotte, then at my mother. I do not look at my father yet. I wasn't planning to speak, I say, and some polite laughter lets the pressure valve hiss. I was going to eat too many of those little crab cakes and leave before anyone asked me about stocks. Smiles. Good, keep it light. Tell the truth anyway? But there's something about finally being in the same room after a long time that makes you brave. I look at Brian. We grew up in a house where excellence was a language. We both got fluent. You in rooms like this. Me in rooms most people don't ever see. I tap my ring against the mic stand, an accidental chime. We made different promises and kept them. I turn my head just enough. My father holds my gaze because he knows how. I don't expect everyone to understand what I do, I say. Most days, I don't want you to. That means we did it right. I look back at my brother and his wife. What I do understand is vows. Making them. Keeping them. Choosing a person and choosing them again tomorrow. Charlotte, welcome to this ridiculous, wonderful family. Brian, be the man you are when nobody's watching. That's the one she married. I lift my water. To my brother and to Charlotte, may your good days outnumber your good intentions, and may you always be each other's home. Lands. The room gives the right kind of applause. People stand because they don't know what else to do with their bodies, and standing buys them time. The band plays the thing they always play when a speech doesn't break. The glass, but it does reset it. I hand the microphone back. As I step down, my father steps up without stepping in front of me. He leans slightly, almost conspiratorial, as if we're boys at the top of the stairs listening to adults talk about things they think we don't understand. What? He says. And he has to stop because his mouth doesn't believe the word yet, exactly. Is a ghost grid? I look at him. My face learns a smile that feels like something I can keep. A story for another day, I say, when it's just us. His jaw ticks, the way it does when he meets an unfamiliar limit. He nods. It might be the first time I've seen him choose not to push through a door simply because it exists. Behind us, glasses refill. Somebody laughs too loud and then covers their mouth and then laughs louder. Brian pulls Charlotte into their first dance, and the room softens, as if someone turned a dimmer. My mother touches my arm. I wrote Ms. Reed, she says, eyes still on the dance floor. I thought she wouldn't see it. She sees a lot, I say. So do you. She said I should let you be the kind of brave you chose. My mother's breath shivers, then steadies. I have not always done that well. You did it tonight, I tell her. You wrote a letter I couldn't, across the room. A board member with a familiar jawline and an unfamiliar humility approaches my father, stops a respectful distance away, and says something with his head slightly bowed. My father listens. We have entered a new map. I look down at the coin still warm in my palm and think of the thousands of hands it stands in for. The band moves into a waltz. I tuck the coin into my pocket like a talisman I don't want, but will keep. There's a lot left. There always is. There are conversations that will go sideways and some that will go right. There are contracts my father will have to win without me, and contracts he might lose because of me. In a compliance meeting on a Tuesday morning where someone will explain to him, slowly, that procurement does not care about his cufflinks. There's the day he will show up at my office not quite knowing whether he should be there, and I will make him coffee in a paper cup and we will start over like grown men do. But tonight, for a minute, a soldier who isn't lowly is just an older brother. And the room is a safe network for a song, and then another, and the firewall holds. And the people inside it laugh and are allowed to forget that the world asks. Someone to stand guard so they can dance. Asterisk. Found my way back to table 17, the way a tide finds the path it already carved. The chairs had shifted while the room recovered itself. A man who'd introduced himself earlier as a friend of the family, but meant friend of the company now, sat straighter. His smile revised. Across from me, a woman in a green dress, Brian's wife's cousin. Maybe you've heard an embarrassed half-laugh. I think I laughed at the wrong place, she said, voice small. I'm sorry. It happens, I said, and reached for the bread like a bridge. The quiet war of glances was its own entertainment. People who hadn't looked at table 17 all night were suddenly finding reasons to orbit. A junior VP from one of my father's subsidiaries slid by with the eagerness of a man hoping to be seen absorbing a lesson. A busboy refilled my water with careful precision and tapped the coin in my palm with his eyes and said, "My brother did 2 tours. Thanks," before disappearing into the choreography of service down the row. An older aunt I only ever see at funerals and weddings gave my father a look that could strip paint. My mother sat composed, her whole body the kind of apology that doesn't interrupt a party. Brian and Charlotte were doing the rounds, shaking hands and posing for photos, their faces luminous, with that first-hour energy that softens later into relief. From my corner, I watched my father step through a side door into the hallway. The big arrangements out there smelled like lilies and money. He took out his phone with the posture of a man who has never dialed a number he couldn't make answer. He lifted it to his ear and turned slightly away, but the hall was mirrored. I could see his face in the glass's pale reflection. "Colonel Dwyer," said. And the confidence in how he said the name told me he remembered it from a breakfast or a golf foursome someone else paid for. "James Bradley. We met at a USA last year. I'd love to talk timing on the ArcLight RFP." He paused, listening to the indifferent hum of a system doing its job outside of his reach. "If you get this, give me a ring. Just 5 minutes." He waited, let what sounded like voicemail pick up, and spoke again, pleasant as a man ordering coffee. "Appreciate you." He tried another number with the speed of someone who doesn't believe in fences. "Jeff," he said this time, warmer, "James Bradley. Heard you moved over to PO. Put me in the right lane for a quick chat. Want to make sure we're aligned." The tone on his end did not change. He lifted the phone, looked at the screen, and put it down without registering that he'd just had to do what everyone else does at least once in a life, except the first no. He turned back. He saw me seeing him. For a beat, we were 2 men in a hallway that smelled like white flowers and corrected maps. Later, he found me in that same hallway without the phone. People flowed past us, pulled by music and cake and the need to talk about anything else. He stopped just outside the spill of the chandelier's light, where the shadows make honesty easier. I said something cheap, he began, and it was not the sentence I expected. I said it because I'm used to rooms laughing when I tell them what's true for me. I forgot they weren't laughing with me. He made a small sound in his throat, halfway to a laugh that didn't arrive. "I called you a lowly soldier because I thought it would land as a compliment dressed as a joke. That's not what I was doing. I was measuring a room with the wrong ruler." He looked at me like a man trying to choose between 2 levers and not wanting to pull either. "I'm sorry, Will." I let the silence hold him for a breath. The lilies did their heavy, sweet thing. Somewhere in the ballroom, a glass chimed against another, and the band slid into something from Sinatra that convinces even the stubborn to sway. "Thank you," I said. "Don't do it again." He nodded once, like someone had handed him an instruction he could follow. "I won't." He cleared his throat, searching for the ledge where he could put his next step. "And the other thing? The thing where I started dialing the army like it's one of my divisions? Don't do that either," I said. "It's not unkind. If Nixora bids, it bids clean. Through the portal. Through contracting. You know the drill. Even if you don't like the drill." "I don't like the drill," he said, rueful. "But I respect that there is one." "Good," I said. "Because even if I could help and I won't, that's not the way this gets done." He looked relieved in that particular way men do when someone took away the wrong option and left them with fewer better ones. "All right," he said. "All right." He glanced toward the doors where Brian and Charlotte were laughing with someone's grandmother. "I am proud of him," he said. "That one. And you." The last two words were quick, almost accidental, like he'd leaned on a switch he didn't know worked. "I heard it," I said. The night reassembled around us. I danced with my mother slow, her cheek cooled against mine, her perfume the same as the bottle on her dresser when I was 12. I danced with Charlotte, who said into my ear, "Thank you for what you said. The part about vows. I'm going to put it on a sticky note inside my head." I danced with a little cousin who counted out loud. I let 2 board members tell me about their sons or OTC programs, and I told them sincerely that service is service, and they nodded like absolution at the bar. Near the end, Brian and I finally found a 3-minute pocket that wasn't a photo op, or a toast, or a hug. He leaned on the marble like it might lean back. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I mean, I knew you were, but I didn't know. You had a wedding to plan," I said. "And a life. You're impossible." He sobered. "I should have said something when Dad, you flinched," I said. "That's something." "I was always better at spreadsheets than speeches," he said, and then locked eyes with me, all the polished surfaces dropping away. "I'm glad you're here." "Me too." We bumped foreheads like we were 9 and 8 again. He pulled back, eyes shiny for half a second. He didn't let anyone else see. "Table 17, huh?" He said. "Every story needs a vantage point." The night pressed cool air against the heat the room had left on my skin. In the valet circle, the hotel's potted citrus trees glowed under uplights. I could see my father through the glass, speaking with the hotel manager, then stepping aside to answer a call he didn't get. He put the phone back into his pocket with a care that looked new on him. Morning met me with hotel coffee, sunlight cruising in through tall windows. The lobby smelled like lilies again, and something called amber. The buildings like to pipe into their lungs to tell you they're expensive. My mother texted, "Breakfast." I wrote back, "Always." We met in the hotel restaurant, where everything was white linen and eggs, scribed on the menu as if they'd written their own bios. Brian and Charlotte arrived late and glowing. My father was exactly on time, in a polo that tried to be casual and slacks that didn't. He sat. He put his napkin on his lap like a man determined to perform every ritual correctly. The bill that came due wasn't on the check. Though he did a small visible flinch at a line called VIP accommodation, which the hotel no doubt invented when someone like Cassandra Reed walks in unannounced. His phone buzzed on the table. He flipped it over, face down, then thought better of it, and tilted it in case whatever it had to say belonged to the rest of us. "Compliance," he said, as if the word itself were a visitor. He opened the email. His eyes moved left to right, that quick, practiced scan he uses when deciding whether to sign something. He sighed and then read parts aloud like confession. "Organizational conflict of interest mitigation, Planner Me Cyber Command overlap contact report. Not required for last night's incidental interaction with OSD and Army leadership." He looked up, surprised into honesty. "They want a list of everyone we spoke to. Times, topics, who initiated." "Welcome to my world," I said. "It has rules." He huffed a small laugh. "And they want me to sign a commitment to refrain from any direct or indirect contact with Army personnel regarding open solicitations, and to route all questions through contracting." He was trying to sound put upon. He also sounded relieved someone else was drawing the lines. "You'll sign it," my mother said, in the same tone she used to use to tell us we would be wearing jackets whether or not we liked them. "And you'll file the report, and then we'll have pancakes." He looked at her like he'd forgotten the relief of being told what to do. "Yes," he said. He opened his phone again and typed a reply. He didn't ask me to read it. He didn't need me to. He hit send and set the phone down like a card he wasn't going to pick up again. There was another bill. The family kind. It arrived without an email subject line. My father cleared his throat. He put both palms on the table, flat as if taking an oath. "I want to make a contract with you," he said. The sentence made Brian snort laugh into his coffee and then apologize with his napkin. "Not a legal one," my father said with the ghost of a smile. "Of the other kind." He glanced at my mother. She nodded like she'd seen a draft. "All right," I said. "Terms." "I don't belittle what you do," he said, counting on fingers he used yesterday to hold a microphone. "In public or in private. I don't try to call people you work with. I don't ask you to break rules. You took an oath to keep. I show up to things where you are and act like a father, not a CEO. Once a month, 8. Dinner, my house, your house. I don't care no business on the table. Just food." He paused, looked at me. "You tell me when I'm doing the old thing? I listen, even if I don't like it. I let it sit." The waiter put down a plate of lemon ricotta pancakes, whose steam smelled like childhood. The room made the pleasant hotel murmur of everything being fine. "My terms," I said. "I don't use you as a villain when you're trying. I don't make my work a weapon in our house. If Nixira wins a contract, I say congratulations. If Nixira loses, I don't gloat. I show up to Sunday dinner when Mom asks. We let Brian be the middle child again, and not a referee. And we fix the seating chart next time." Brian raised his hand. "Seconded," Charlotte grinned. "I'll design the place cards." My father nodded solemnly, as if signing with a pen only he could see. "Deal," he said, and because he is who he is, stuck out his hand. I shook it. Then, because I am who I am. I pulled him in and thumped his back once so he'd know this wasn't a boardroom. He held on a fraction longer than he would have last year. We ate. We talked about nothing, whether flights, whether Aunt Lila meant to wear white, or whether it just looked that way under the lights. My mother told us Charlotte would be teaching Brian how to fold a fitted sheet. Brian said he preferred to outsource after breakfast. My father stood and hesitated the way people do who want company on a walk but don't know how to ask. "Walk with me," he said. We stepped into the late morning brightness. The city was itself delivery trucks and joggers, and a kid in a stroller. It's demanding a balloon from no one in particular. "I meant it," he said finally, eyes on the sidewalk ahead, about being proud. I've said that word so many times in rooms where it bought me something. I am practicing saying it where it costs me. "It doesn't cost you," I said. "It pays." He looked sideways at me, a little surprised by the mercy he didn't think he deserved. "All right," he said. "All right." He squinted into the sun. "What is Ghost Grid?" I laughed. "It's a unit full of people who do their jobs so you don't have to know their names. It's guardrails and good guesses and locks nobody sees. It's boring until it isn't, and then it's the only thing anyone cares about." He nodded, satisfied without being nosy. "That's a good thing for a father not to understand," he said. "Exactly." Back in the lobby, his phone buzzed again. He checked it and winced. "Colonel Dwyer returned my call," he said. He showed me the voicemail transcription like it was a pop quiz he wasn't sure he passed. It read like doctrine. "Mr. Bradley, per FAR and DFARS guidelines. We cannot discuss active solicitations outside the contracting chain. Please direct inquiries. To the contracting officer listed on sam.gov, thank you for your interest in supporting the Warfa Fire." He looked up. He was polite. "That's the point," I said. He hit delete and put the phone away. Lighter for having one fewer lever to pull. There were more days after that, and none of them were perfect. He forgot a term of our new contract twice in the first month and remembered it himself the third. I said no to a question he shouldn't have asked, and we ate dinner anyway. He filed his contact report and sat through a briefing from his own legal counsel about organizational conflicts of interest without checking his watch. He listened. He didn't like it. He listened a week later. He sent me a picture from his office, a printed copy of the email he'd sent to compliance, pinned above his desk. Next to a photo of me at 10 in a baseball uniform, and Brian at 8 holding a trophy for a piano recital he'd hated, he'd written with a pen under both boundaries. If you want me to keep going, I can take you through the months that followed. The industry day where my father sat in the audience and asked the right question at the right time. The night Brian and I ended up on the roof of the old house with 2 beers and a shared blanket while the city glittered. The time Cassandra Reed called my mother on a Sunday to tell her she owed her a vacation, and my mother said she'd settled for pancakes and a plant that was finally thriving. Or we can go to the day the contract was awarded and how no one in my family found out from me, which is precisely how it should be. Asterisk the months after move the way good code deploys quietly, with fewer errors each time. At an industry day in D.C., my father sat 3 rows back, like a man learning to be a student again. During Q&A, he stood, waited to be called on, and asked the contracting officer, "What does success look like for you 12 months after award?" The room hummed right question, right place. He didn't look at me. In the parking deck afterward, he said, not quite facing me, "I learned where the microphone belongs," said. "That's leadership." He took the compliment like medicine and kept walking. One night, Brian and I ended up on the old roof with 2 beers and a blanket, our breath white in the cold. "He's trying," Brian said, staring at the dark slice of river. "So am I." I flipped the challenge coin in my palm, listened to its soft tick on my knuckles, and told him trying was the job. A plane stitched a lighted line over the city. We watched until it became only an idea. When the ArcLight Award notice finally posted, Nixira didn't win. My phone buzzed anyway. From Dad, lost fair. Will win fair. Proud of whoever did. I smiled in my kitchen and texted back a thumbs up and nothing more, which is exactly how that should work. 2 months later, Nixira won a VA hardening contract clean process, no calls, the kind of work that helps people sleep. He sent a photo of his team holding sheet cake in a conference room and wrote, "Boundaries work." I printed it and stuck it under a magnet shaped like a marigold my mother found at a craft fair. On a Sunday, my mother put a plate of pancakes on the table and her phone rang with a Washington number. Cassandra read, warm as a sweater. "Mrs. Bradley, you owe yourself a vacation." Not Hawaii. A weekend. No email. My mother laughed like she'd been caught. A week later, she texted me a picture of a lake at dusk, my father in a flannel that didn't quite fit. Both of them small on a dock big enough for 2. Spring brought their 40th anniversary. This time the seating chart had my father's handwriting all over it, tink marks and arrows, and my name where it belonged. He stood for a toast and didn't perform. Spoke. "To my sons," he said, looking at Brian, then me, "one builds value. One guards our values." Their mother made both possible. No punchline. Just a glass lifted the right way. Later, when a board member muttered just a soldier near the bar, my father corrected him gently, almost casually. There's no just in that phrase. The man nodded, chastened without bruise. After dessert, Dad asked to see the coin. He turned it in his fingers, reading the etching like a verse, then set it back in my palm with a nod. "Too heavy for my pocket," he said. "Right weight for yours." Not everything was clean. He slipped once, called a colonel about a different RFI, caught himself mid-voicemail, hung up, and forwarded the question to contracting with a note, "Per guidance." He didn't tell me. He didn't need to. At dinner, he mentioned it the way people mention a near miss at a stoplight and then drive better. Near midnight, I walked my parents out. In the hotel drive, someone's Bluetooth speaker leaked Sinatra into the air. My mother hugged me twice. My father shook my hand and then didn't let go. "I won't use the wrong ruler again," he said. "You can tell me when I reach for it." I said I would. On the way home, Downtown lights floated in the windshield like a second sky. A plane droned overhead, steady, unhurried. I touched the coin in my pocket and thought of table 17, of a hallway that smelled like lilies, of a man learning to put his phone away, of a family contract written without ink. The firewall held. Inside it, people laughed and danced and promised things. I drove on, not lowly, not loud, exactly what I had always been, an older brother, a soldier, going forward.